of radio.
On today's episode, Missy and I are talking about turning things inside out.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of On Finding Peace. And this is the podcast where Missy and I talk about daily life tips where we can work toward finding our happiness and inner peace. And we can do it in a very practical way. So today we're talking about turning things inside out. We'll explain what that means. But how you doing, Missy? You're in a nice outdoor, I'm assuming real, not green screen setting.
Yeah, no, this is real. This is where I live, luckily. But I missed you, Chris. We haven't seen each other in a couple weeks, and we haven't got to chat. So things are going really good for me. And how are things for you?
Awesome. Yeah, schedules, they just get in the way of things like podcasts.
Yeah.
But, another good lesson that we do like to teach everybody, about living in the moment and the patience and all things in their right time. And I guess this is one of those that
going with the flow. That's it. We just
it took a bit to get here, but here we are again.
Isn't that the truth, boy?
But not once again in my shed, because after a few weeks of nice warm weather and cutting the grass and putting the flowers out and just enjoying the outdoors, my temperature is now in the 30s and it's windy out.
Yeah.
So
I do not,
yes,
and I'm gonna try not to gloat.
So I am in front of my green screen, and I don't know if I'm going to put something on the screen or just leave it green, but it's not outside, unfortunately, and it's just very bizarre.
Yeah.
So I know places not too far from me got snow, a few inches of snow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And same thing. They were like, "Hey, we were cutting our grass over the weekend, and now we got a few inches of snow on the ground." So
yeah, that's insane. I don't miss that. I mean, I'll tell you that it got kind of hot here last week, but this morning I woke up and it was 60 degrees outside, and we went for a little stroll, and now it's beautiful. It's probably 75, 80 degrees. And I know everybody's going, shut up, I hate you. But, this is the choice we made, right?
But it's all good. Again, I like my shed. I got my little heater going, and my dog is sitting by my feet. So nice. What more could I want?
That's right. Sounds good. Sounds like you have a perfect out picturing of what's going on up here.
Yes. So I got to see if I could come up with a green screen thing. So, if you're going to watch this video, you're either going to see a green screen behind me the whole video, or there's going to be something there, and whatever ends up being back there is going to be not real. Yeah. But it is all about perception. So could put a tropical setting. I could sprinkle my forehead with water just to make it look like I'm sweating in the heat of a tropical setting.
You're trying to compete with me, right?
Yeah. Not gonna happen. So not gonna happen. But it is kind of interesting to our topic, though, because when we look at this, turning things inside out and reflecting on what our thoughts can do to our feelings, one of my things that I say all the time is, perception is reality. So I guess if I did put a nice tropical setting in the background and spray my head and give the impression that becomes my reality, and it would become the reality of people watching the videos. So
Well,
I guess that is about turning things inside out, because it's not really my reality right now.
even if it's not real, it sounds fun, right?
It
And
sounds fun.
yeah, I think that's getting to the topic. I feel like that's where I had to start to learn, what was happening around me was a result of subconscious and conscious thoughts. So if I believed that, people would do me wrong, right, then I might have people in my space who were stealing from me or lying to me or things like that. And in cleaning it up mentally, just the conscious part of it, those things start to dissipate. But if they're still showing up, then that could be part of your subconscious and what needs healing in your soul. And so I thought that would be a really important topic to start. Hopefully we can make people aware that, you're out picturing your world by what's happening and what's going on inside of you, not because things happen to you, they happen for you, so that you have the ability to start to grow and heal through that process.
I have a client right now who I guess I've had for a little over a year now, dealing with a lot. But one of the coping mechanisms is there have been attempted suicides, and still at times some suicidal thoughts. And we've worked a lot with that. And this person has grown a lot with that in their understanding. And they just recently were asked at their job if they would consider a different position. And this position would be a liaison position with the community regarding suicides.
Wow.
And they would work with suicide survivors and suicide groups, and really see what the community needs to assist.
Right.
And one of the things this person has said to me was, well, I don't know if I can do that because look at my history, and it could be triggering and all. But one of the things that I mentioned was, could this be the reason that you got well in the first place?
Yeah. And the reason that they went through it, because sometimes you have to go through it to get through it, to show other people how to get through it too, So that's, I had a similar experience in my own life years ago, and I know I've talked about it on the show before, is that I was at that point. I was suicidal and, just waiting for the Lord to take me. Just take me, please, please, please. I just don't want to be here. And I used to marry people. I was an ordained minister, and I had a friend who contacted me. I married him and his wife. And he reached out to me. I'm like, why is this guy bothering me? Like, get off my back, get away from me, and then he was persistent. And so finally I responded, and he told me, like, I'm reaching out to you because you married me, because you're ordained as a minister, which I have no religious background. No counseling, abilities at that point. And he says, I'm thinking of committing the unforgivable sin. Like, I want to take my life. And I was like, sprung into action immediately. In talking this gentleman off of the ledge, was able to talk myself off the ledge, and so the message wasn't just for him, it was for me as well. But I needed him to basically open up the pipeline and let the love flow through me so that I could hear what I needed to hear and, assist him in the meantime. So it really wasn't just for him, it was for me as well. So that very well could be what your client's experiencing, is just going through something like that, to be able to hear the lesson for themselves and share the lesson with somebody else.
Yep.
Have you and I ever talked about the quadrants in
I don't believe that we have. I don't think, definitely on the show we haven't. I don't think we have.
Okay, so I'm going to share with you, and this could be, and this is not my work. This is just something that I'm sharing. It basically comes from Dr. Carolyn Fuqua, I believe, has created this analogy, and she's amazing. She works with A Course in Miracles, but it's like at 12 o'clock, we're in the Garden of Eden, okay? And I'm not saying this in a religious sense. I'm just saying, like, basically we're with God, okay? And then we have to go through the fall. So in quadrant between 12 and 3, we begin the fall. It's complete darkness. We're doing things that are, putting guilt into our clean consciousness of being spirit. So we have, murders and rapes and tragedy and stealing and theft and lies and all those kind of things that we're starting to hold guilt for between 12 and 1. 12 and 3. So between 3 and 6, we start to come into the light a little bit. We're recognizing things, but we're not completely understanding that this is all happening for us. So we're blaming everybody. We're projecting out into the world like it's your fault. You did it. It's that state of mind that we're living in between 3 and 6. So between 6 and 9, we start to realize that everything is happening for us. So this is kind of what the inside out is like, there must be something in my soul from the guilt of theft that is needing to be healed because I just got my car broke into, and that's what's just happened to me. So that must be like, okay, well, I acknowledge it. I'm willing to forgive it. I'm willing to let that guilt go. And then what's next? Ask what's next to be able to become the person who can forgive that. And that's quadrant 6 through 9. So in 9 through 12, we are literally coming back to being with God and being in full super consciousness where, we can constantly recognize it, constantly cleaning out, has very little effect on our lives. And it's not that we go through this process linear, okay? It's not like we're in 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. It doesn't happen like that. We jump around a lot, and that's what I think that most people start to recognize as you get further along through consciousness. You start to recognize that this is all happening so that you can heal yourself. And in healing, I heal you because I believe, and maybe our audience does, maybe you do, but I believe that because we're all drops in this larger ocean, right? We're all parts of God. We're walking it out. We're all here to do a job, and we attract the people that are going to help us clean that stuff out, let go of the guilt, forgive it, whether it's in this lifetime that we did it, we're currently doing it in this lifetime, or we've done it in a concurrent lifetime. It's all for the greater good of healing consciousness and expanding on that. So I know that was a lot, but
but it's all great stuff. And maybe if we can find a really good summary link to that, we can add it to the description, because it really is good stuff. And I totally agree with you, and there is, to me, the whole thing of purpose. And, when I look at, what is happiness and inner peace, one of the things I talk about is purpose, finding that purpose in life. And sometimes that purpose, I think, is in what you were saying, is that it comes from our past, our history, so that we can learn from this history, this past, to be able to better affect what we need to do. Right. And where when some people say, like, why am I going through this pain? Why am I going through, tragedy or whatever it may be? I don't have an answer. Right. Except to say, who knows down the road what you're going to take with you that is going to either aid and help you in something bigger, or that you're there to help other people. Right. And that's, to me, that's what's turning it inside out, right? Instead of asking why is this happening to me? Why, what can I do about it? Even a doing, it's more like, okay, where do I need to clean up what I'm doing? And so I think I might have said this on our show before, but I was attracting micromanaging, narcissistic people. And I was like, why me? Like, why am I getting that? And so I didn't get anywhere with that answer is what I'm getting at. But when I started to look at, okay, where am I doing that? Where am I currently doing that? Have I done it before? Probably. Am I doing it now? Because if I'm doing it now, then they're going to keep showing up for me.
because they're going to show me myself, right? That's what the outpicturing of what's going on inside is. And so I started to really look, and not in an analytical way, not in a judgmental way, but I was doing it to my kids. So I have a higher power, you have a higher power, so do they. And if I'm bossing them around and telling them what to do and how to do it and when to do it and all that kind of stuff, then that means that I don't have a higher power, because I'm the one that's trying to control them, right? And so I really had to kind of take a step back and let that go and come from a different place when I was talking to them. Which I'll be honest with you, I'm a mom and I still have challenges. I still am learning, and they teach me so much all the time. But once I lessened the reins, once I backed that up again, people were not allowed to vibrationally could not stay in my space that were doing those things, and so I would lose clients and be like, okay, that was good news. Not because I didn't want them there, because I wanted to help them, but because I wasn't a vibrational match anymore. They couldn't show me that side of myself because I was willing to give it forth and let it be healed. And in my world, that's forgiving. Not, Chris, you did something wrong with me, and I release you of that, that wrongdoing. But forgiving is giving it forth to God to allow him to do the work to let it be healed in your life.
Yep. No, most definitely. And the whole thing about turning that power and control over to a higher power.
Yeah.
I think it is so important. Because one of the things that we strive toward is to be in control of everything.
Right.
That's what humans do. And when you look at very basically your stress and your anxieties, it's probably over something that you don't have any control over, but you're trying to have control over.
Yeah.
So you find the areas of life that we do have control over and act accordingly, but those areas that we don't, we have to just turn over.
Yeah.
And to say that we have no control, but do we believe that something has control over this? And is going to take care of it.
Yeah.
But I need to step back because this isn't mine to take care of.
Right.
I have my stuff to take care of.
That's
but not
in surrender too, right? I mean, we've had a podcast on that before, but this is also the law of polarity, right? The law of polarity is okay, light and dark, good and bad. We can call it even judgment, right? But the left side of the pole is the spirit-driven side of the pole, the oneness that creates us all. The right side of the pole is the egoic side of the pole, where it's me and I and no one else, and I'm out to fend for myself. And it's a matter of that fast, a click of your fingers that you can switch sides and realize that you're coming from the place of being part of that whole to start to heal that for everybody. And you can tell the difference. You can tell. I don't know how, maybe you might have to bleep me out, but I'm going to say this because I think it's funny. So one of my old coaches, her coach said, it's like, how can you tell the difference? Well, the difference is, it's like a slap in the face or sexual pleasure. I'll say it that way because that's more etiquette, but it's like, the difference, right? What feels good. A slap in the face does not feel good. And that's what happens when you're coming from an egoic space. It just ends up, making you feel bad. You feel guilty. You're living in your mind about it being analytical. And why did I do it that way? Or why did they do it that way? The other thing is just like, wow, that was great. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wonderful. That was just phenomenal. And you don't think about it anymore. You just keep going and you move forward and you stay in a present space and it's just wonderful. And so you don't have to know when you're living in the present. You don't have to know when you're coming from spirit, when you're out for the highest and best good for everybody, because it just feels right.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that is very true. And if you really reflect on what you're saying, that there is that piece about it because there is a lot of that letting go and surrender component that, I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to worry about this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just knowing that you're already set up to win, like whatever. And then you start to turn things around and you go like, oh, wait, what can I see that where can the good from this come from that I can't even see yet? And you start to be curious about why things are happening. That curiosity solves so much suffering. It absolves you of it. And then it lets your mind be at peace, which is what we're here to help you do on this podcast.
Yep. It just reminded me that the other day I was watching an episode of the TV show Mom, and I highly recommend the show, although I hear this is the last season, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll keep it going. But for those who haven't seen it, it's a 30-minute comedy. But the whole premise is around a group of women who are in recovery, and just a lot of things that talk about addiction and recovery, and they show them at meetings, and just awesome from that viewpoint. But to what we were saying is in the latest episode, one of the people who's been in recovery for ages, and all these ladies are friends,
Right.
is bemoaning that one of their friends who's recently in recovery all of a sudden is like being extremely successful, at getting her job and getting these pay increases, was able to get a new car, was, all of this what was flowing. And that this other one said to her sponsor, when do I get the prizes and money? I've been in recovery longer. When do I get the prizes and money? And it was great because the sponsor said, you have prizes and money.
Right.
You have a great husband. You're reuniting with your kids. That's your prizes and money.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, when we're saying this, is I think for people to, we have to change our perspective onto what is success, what is our prize. And I just thought that was so great for her to say that.
Yeah.
That we all get them in different ways, and it's just in how do you experience it, how do you relate to it, how would you define it, all of those qualities of success.
One of the laws of mastery, and I think there's like 5 rules of mastery, and I don't know them all, but I do remember this one specifically. It's being grateful for everything. And
Yep.
Look, it took me a long time to get here. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this work for years, and don't get me wrong. I used to compare. I would do the same thing that young lady did, on the show. I would be like, well, when do I get my fancy business? And when am I going to get clients like that? And how come and why? And, and that wasn't coming from a spirit-led place. It was coming from ego. Like, why, like I'm not good enough. And I had to heal that. I had to clean that out. And now I'm like, the place that I'm at, I don't want to say I'm rolling in the dough. It's not like that, but I am feeling very good and grateful about everything. The ability to share, the ability to give, the ability to not even worry about if somebody pays me back or not. Just, that it keeps coming. It's that karma is there. It's going to come back to you. And I don't give because I'm waiting for it to come back from me. I give not because I'm trying to fix somebody else's things, because there's nothing broken, but because I'm led and I feel good to. It's like, all of a sudden I get an idea like, so-and-so is about to travel somewhere. I'm going to send him $100 for gas, and I'm just going to do it. And they're like, why'd you do that? Like, I didn't need it. I'm sure you didn't need it. I wasn't asked because you needed it. It was because I was told that that's what I should do with my money. And that's what I'm doing with my money. And I mean, it takes a long time to get to that place, and some of us, some of you may be there already, and that's wonderful, but some of you may not, and that's okay, because you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
As long as we continue to try to grow and improve, maybe that's the wrong word. I totally agree with you. You know, where we are right now is where we're meant to be right now.
Right.
As long as you're not saying I've made it.
No, God, because I'll be aiming to make it every day for the rest of my life, because, and that's the thing, like Abraham Hicks says, you're never going to get it done. And what is how, oh gosh, I lost it now, but it's like, it's once you get to that place, you're going to want to be at a new place. So you're never going to get, right. And so that's great. That's a growth mindset, and
exactly.
And I like to point out that when you are attached to the outcome, that's when we suffer, right? So if you go with the flow and you just are like, look, it's going to happen when it happens. And you're patient and you just keep aiming for the goal. I know I've said before, it's not ready, aim, fire. It's ready, fire, aim. You leap, you go after it, and you just keep aiming until you get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So goals in the linear sense of timeline, I think, are even sometimes it's too much pressure. Like it's too much, because you're never going to know if it's going to happen in that timeline. You can set your intention and you can be very intentional, aiming for it and working every day. And I think that's phenomenal. And what do they say? You can still shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars. You'll get close, but if you don't get there by that date, don't beat yourself up. Don't attack the outcome, because it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. So
yep, totally agree. And just again, listen to the words, and your stress and anxiety can melt away.
Yeah,
because you get this mental image of how that would feel like if we were to do exactly what you're saying. It does just melt away.
Yeah,
and there's a freedom built into that.
Yeah, and it's practice. I mean, you're not going to walk out. You're not going to end this podcast and just go, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But when you set your intention, you'll start to remember, oh, wait, and I'm going to slow down from my emotions a little bit. I'm going to take a step back. It's like zooming in on a lens and, like, let's say a bee on a flower, or panning back and seeing the entire flower bed. When you start to look with an observer's point of view at what's going on in your life, you'll start to check things out in a different way. And so I think that might be a good listener challenge this week.
Oh,
how do you feel about that?
Oh, I like it, because I've been trying to think in the background as we're talking what's going to be a listener challenge.
Yeah. It's like I asked a coach one time, how come you can help somebody else fix the same problem that you're going through, but you can't fix it for yourself? And they said, well, you can be in it, but not of it, right? You're in it when you're in it, but when you're just watching it, it's totally different. You have a totally different perspective. And so my challenge, our challenge, I would suggest, is that you try to take a back seat from not being in the movie, but watching the movie and seeing how it's playing out, so that you have the ability to turn these things inside out and start to practice so that you can heal, and we can all benefit from when you heal whatever you're going through. So I'm going to do my best for you guys, and I know Chris will do his best, so we can start
always
to, and hopefully we'll all start to elevate each other into a higher level of consciousness. If I can speak today.
That was a tongue twister. But yes, I love that challenge. I can't wait to see what people can write down and send to us, and connect with us on social media. Let us know how you're doing on that challenge.
Yeah.
It's a big one this time.
Absolutely.
But definitely a doable one. And this was great messaging.
Yeah.
Of just looking at turning our thoughts inside out.
Absolutely. And really good book, by the way. If anybody is really curious of where this thought process came from, Michael O'Neill wrote a book and it's called The Inside Out Revolution. Phenomenal book, very quick read. And I highly suggest, this, it will dive a little bit deeper into what we discussed here today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Chris, I really appreciate your time always.
Yep. And same with you, Missy. And hopefully our temperature warms up or yours cools down or whatever. So appreciate it. And,
thank you
if you really like this podcast, let's spread the word. Tell people about this so we can keep sharing this message. And if you have any thoughts on topics, please drop us a line. There's a lot of ways to get in touch with us. So let us know what your thoughts are.
Yep. And thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.